Hey all, Andrew here. Welcome to the Onion Buns. So I'm going to revisit a video I made a couple weeks ago called Carney in the Coal Mine. I think this is the single most important video we've seen about Mark Carney. And there's lots of stuff about Carney, like evil stuff, and I've gone over it ad nauseum. So if you haven't heard about all of that stuff, that's by your own choice. Go back, watch the other videos. I've gone over it all. But this one, I really think this one needs to be front and center. So the last time I did the video, I did the short form. I'm going to run the whole video for you this time. The full length video telling the whole story. And yeah, it's to me, this is evil. This is textbook definition, Webster's Dictionary, evil. And that's Mark Carney. So let's get started. All right, this is the short version. But I'm going to read through some stuff first, and then we'll play the long version. Meet Tony and Kenneth Phillips. They both used to be coal miners in the United States until their careers were halted by black lung. They're among countless coal miners who have had the misfortune of trying to get benefits from Rockwood Casualty Insurance. Rockwood is a subsidiary of Brookfield, and when this story was going on, the chairman of Brookfield, making all the hard decisions, was Mark Carney. Why does this matter to Canadians? Because Mark Carney was making money off Rockwood through his company Brookfield. Under his tenure as chair, Brookfield bought Rockwood's parent company, Argo Group, in 2023 for $1.1 billion. Despite advocating for a coal-free future, Brookfield continued to profit from coal terminals and power plants. And that's just touching. He sold that coal from America to China, who has the world's largest carbon footprint before this coal. So anyone claiming he's an environmentalist is full of donkey do. Mark Carney saw this business as a cash cow. Of course, this vision came at the expense of workers depending on Rockwood for the treatments and medications they need. Carney's strategy: the less money he spends on sick workers, the more money that ends up in his pocket. Carney's company, known for fighting black lung claims, and he fought it all the way to the Supreme Court. He lost, but he was still arrogant enough to take it to the Supreme Court while they were dying. Again, evil. That's the only word that describes him. He used aggressive legal tactics to deny or delay benefits, forcing miners like Tony and Kenneth into years-long legal battles. And there you have all the different... Kenneth, diagnosed with black lung at 46, was prescribed life-saving medication Ofev. But Carney's company refused to cover its $14,000 a month cost. Tony, after nearly 40 years in mining, had to take Carney's company to the U.S. Supreme Court just to secure the benefits he was entitled to. Now, that's a heavy price. I do admit that's a big cost for a medication, but that's the U.S. healthcare system. And Carney, when him and Brookfield bought this company, they knew that. And the other thing that's left out of this equation is if Carney and Brookfield had given these miners the proper equipment, the masks, the ventilators, the chances of they getting black lung would have severely diminished. But they didn't. They knew what they were doing. They sent these people out to die. Again, evil. Another miner, Teddy Wright, died of pancreatic cancer that was hastened by black lung. His widow, Josie, is still fighting Carney's company to get her survivor benefits. Again, evil. I can't repeat it enough. Mark Carney is evil. He's not a good man. He's not an environmentalist. He doesn't care about people. He only cares about making money. This is how Mark Carney's company treats sick workers. How will they treat Canadians? All right, so here is the full video.
I'm 75. Look what I'm doing. Yeah, it's not the funnest thing to pack this thing around.
My whole career was 6-7 days a week, 14 hours a day. I loved it. Used to work out, play softball on the weekends, and just things I can't do anymore. But yeah, I was pretty healthy.
Meet Tony Corianis and Kenneth Phillips. They both used to be coal miners in the United States until their careers were halted by black lung. They're among countless coal miners who've had the misfortune of trying to get benefits to which they're entitled from Rockwood Casualty Insurance. Now, why should this matter to Canadians? Well, because Mark Carney's former employer, Brookfield, was making money off the backs of these gentlemen and many like them. Carney joined Brookfield in 2020 to, quote, combine positive social and environmental outcomes with strong risk-adjusted returns for investors. Under Carney, Brookfield launched Brookfield Reinsurance, an insurance division operating out of Bermuda, free from Canadian regulations and taxes.
One of the big strategic initiatives that Brookfield has taken in the last few years is to build an insurance business, and it's going very well.
In 2023, Brookfield bought Rockwood's parent company, Argo Group, for $1.1 billion, adding it to Brookfield's $1 trillion in assets under management. Now, Rockwood is dedicated to representing the coal industry, representing coal mining companies. Despite Carney's insistence on everyone else getting off coal, he's always been fine profiting off of it himself. He was at Brookfield when it took majority control of Australia's Dalrymple Bay coal terminal, one of the world's largest coal ports. Brookfield is also the proud owner of a coal power plant in Washington state, thanks to its purchase of TransAlta. But with Rockwood, Carney was making money by denying black lung treatments and benefits to sick coal miners and their families. Rockwood made $21.3 million in 2022. It made $25 million in 2023 when Brookfield decided to snatch it up. It's a simple calculation. The fewer miners they support, the more money they make. Carney and his Brookfield colleague, Bruce Flatt, saw the insurance business as a cash cow.
Look, our expertise is in investing, and therefore having the ownership of an insurance company is kind of like, as long as we can manage the liability and we're trying to do low risk insurance, we can out earn anybody else, and therefore if we can buy companies and then out earn on the asset side, you can make very high returns to the bottom line. And most insurance companies in the past have struggled with the investment side of the balance sheet. That's our core business, and so it's just sort of an addition to our overall business, and it gives us large sums of money to put to work into the strategies we have in asset management.
Of course, this vision comes at the expense of the coal miners depending on Rockwood for the treatments and medications they need. Black lung, or coal workers' pneumoconiosis, is caused by long-term inhalation of coal dust. The coal dust builds up in miners' lungs and causes fibrosis or scarring, making it more and more difficult for people to breathe. And yes, it can be fatal.
So there is no cure. We can try to manage the symptoms. And typically on the individuals that are affected significantly, those are significant symptoms for the rest of their life. There is no cure for it.
But there are interventions that can help black lung patients live more tolerable lives or stop the disease from getting worse. But when many coal miners try to access them, they find Brookfield's company, Rockwood, standing in their way.
My name's Kenneth Phillips. I'm from Belfry, Kentucky. Dad was a coal miner. And then when I got out of high school, my stepfather was a coal miner, and then that's how I was introduced to coal mining. That's what I've done since I started out of high school, and the goal was to just keep mining until I got retirement age.
Just over 3 years ago, Kenneth wound up in the hospital with a bout of pneumonia. A chest x-ray revealed his lungs had severe scarring. He had black lung from his 25 years working in coal mines.
What I have is called progressive massive fibrosis, so it's going to keep progressing.
As the disease runs its course, Kenneth, who is only 46 years old, will more than likely need a lung transplant. He was prescribed an antifibrotic medication called Ofev.
It's a medication I think it was around 2018 or 19, it was brought out to slow the progression down or stop it. And they've got good results on it too. And that's why she said I was young, and every time I go to Cleveland, they do breathing tests, PFTs, and they kept declining. But the last time I was down there in July, she was like, let's get on with it and give this a whirl, and maybe it'll stop me from having a lung transplant in the future.
The problem? OFEV can cost up to $14,000 per month. Kenneth was prescribed the drug last summer. Now, he was able to take it for 6 months, albeit no thanks to Rockwood.
My private insurance was paying for it. I guess when the Rockwood denied it, my private insurance picked up and they paid for it for 6 months. So I took it from July to December, and then when the new year turned over, the private insurance wanted to say $2,000 co-payment, and I can't afford that. So I've been dealing with Rockwood over that whole time, trying to get them paid for it, and they finally just told me that they weren't paying for it because it wasn't in the system to call my counsel. It's been tough, it really has. I mean, and like I said, it's just this medicine's put out there for a reason, to try to help people like me. I've been off it for almost 3 weeks now.
He was finally cut off by Rockwood for good in January. There's no sign he'll be able to get back on this drug that can keep his disease at bay and potentially prevent a lung transplant.
It's sick, I mean, you took a total responsibility for the disease I have and paying my benefits. Why can't you pay for my medicine that's going to help me in the future?
Kenneth's drug is expensive, but coal miners have difficulty getting even the most basic benefits from Rockwood. In Tony Corianis's case, Rockwood fought him all the way to the United States Supreme Court.
I worked in the mines for close to 40 years. I was in the industry. I worked as a consultant for 5 years and worked for Joy Mining Machinery for 7 or 8 years. But most of the time it was underground in the coal mines.
Tony took advantage of a national black lung screening program in the United States to regularly test for the disease.
I got called by the Department of Labor that last test I had taken, there was issues. And I says, oh, really? All these years and I haven't had any. He said, yeah, you need to go see a doctor.
His employer, Hidden Splendor, accepted responsibility for his black lung diagnosis. They were prepared to pay his benefits until their insurance company, Rockwood, got involved, that is. Rockwood fought tooth and nail to undo the admission of responsibility, hiring an army of lawyers and so-called medical experts to say Tony didn't actually have black lung. The 2 doctors they hired to disprove his doctor's diagnosis never even examined him.
They went off of testing that was done here at the local hospital. Excuse me. And that's when I testified. I said, what are they going off of? What basis? What testing? Did they see me take the test? No. Did they come out and question me? No. Did they have me do the exercise test to determine was it a rest or exercise that I had a problem? No. So why is there information even being considered by the court?
Rockwood fought Tony for 8 years. They lost every step of the way and likely spent more on lawyers than the benefits would have cost them in the first place. It would have been a piddly amount for a multi-million-dollar company like Rockwood, but for Tony it mattered. He was the one living through the illness.
As you can hear, I've got a raspy voice. I've got a lot of phlegm that I'm constantly coughing up. You know what? It gets expensive going to the doctor. So. Yeah, and I want my wife to have compensation after I'm gone. That's where I feel that Rockwood really was dragging their feet. Well, they want you to pass away because the compensation your wife's left with and the compensation and the doctor's bills, while you're alive, is of course going to be higher. So it's in their best behalf that you're dead and gone, and they only have to give a little bit of compensation to the wife. Nothing's fair anymore. I don't know if I could look at myself in the mirror every day and say, yeah, I'm a good lawyer. I'm sure screwing that guy over for my company.
It's these hardball tactics that made the insurance provider such a boon to Brookfield's bottom line in Mark Carney's eyes.
It's disheartening. It really is. It's like they're more worried about the money side of it than they are the health side of people that they're trying to insure.
I guess it's like everybody else. They're out to make a buck, and they want to have a good life, and that's how they do it.
It is definitely David versus Goliath as far as the amount of attorneys, the amount of money that they have backing them, but we've done all right.
There are far too many cases of Rockwood fighting against coal miners to list. Billy Mullins, Dennis McCracken, Robert Lee, Truman Nieper, Robert Rule. These are just a handful of cases from the last year alone. There are ongoing cases too right now where Rockwood continues to fight against coal miners with black lung, and in some cases they're surviving family members, if you can believe it, to get out of its legal obligations. Teddy Wright died of pancreatic cancer that was hastened by his black lung. His widow, Josie, suffered a litany of appeals as she tried to get her survivor's benefits. Kenneth Thompson has since died, and Rockwood is fighting his daughter, Jill, as she tries to secure a resolution for her father's case. But hey, the less money spent on these folks, the more flows to Carney and Brookfield, right?
It's going very well, but it's early days. It's early innings in a much bigger trend, don't you think?
If this is how Mark Carney's company treats sick coal miners, how is he going to treat Canadians?
It's your ethos. In Greek, ethos means, your mindset, basically, to put it mildly. If his ethos is to make money, you got another problem like we do.
Yep.
I believe I'd vote for the other guy.
So if you're wondering why this video was created by the Conservatives, the story was presented to the Canadian mainstream media and they declined to run with it. Ask yourself about that one. So Polyev came out and he said, you guys won't run it, so we're going to start running our own stories exposing this guy because you guys won't do it. And that's a big problem with our current election campaign going on, is the mainstream media has exposed maybe 2% of all the dastardly, evil, unthinkable acts Carney has done in the last 20 years. Just the last 20 years. You don't even have to go back his whole life, just the last 20 years. I shake my head. I said this in the other video, I'm going to say it here. We have seen Hollywood make movies about this, where the evil corporate villain tries to kill off his workers because it's cheaper for the mortality than to keep them alive with medication. And in all of those movies, we cheer for the little people, like Silkwood with Meryl Streep and Kurt Russell. Justified, the TV show, they talked about this as well, and the list goes on and on and on. It's hundreds of movies and TV shows, and in every single one of them, we cheer for the victims. We don't cheer for the corporate overlords. And yet in the Canadian election, we have this subset of people, and I don't believe there's as many as what the same mainstream media that refuse to run this story are claiming there is, but we have this subset of people that they think Carney's great. Carney is evil. Carney is Hitler. There's no other way about it. Mark Carney is Adolf Hitler, the modern day version. That's how much he cares about people. You just saw it from the actual people suffering under his yoke, and he doesn't care as long as he's making the greenbacks, So yeah, I honestly, I find that video very disturbing and very depressing, but it's also a video everybody needs to see because you can't put Mark Carney into office in Canada. The only room Mark Carney should be in is a jail cell. Literally. That's the only room he should be in. And I don't know what it's going to take for the modern day left to wake up and recognize this man for what he is. He's evil. He is evil personified. You pick your adjective. Hitler, Satan, Beelzebub, Asmodean, Lucifer. This is what he is. It's not hyperbole. There are mountains of evidence on him being unthinkably evil. And you can't put somebody like that in charge of a government. I keep saying online that him and Trump are the same person. It's just Trump's better at the game. And I do believe that. Him and Trump are two peas in a pod. They're identical, except Trump is just smarter than Carney. That's all it is. But I do think Carney is more evil than Trump. At his core, I don't agree with how Trump's going about it, but at his core, I do believe Trump has America's best interests at heart. Now, maybe his policies don't bring that positivity about. I don't know. We'll have to see. But I do believe he thinks he's doing right by America. I don't think Carney believes he's doing right by Canadians. I don't think Carney gives a shit about Canadians, honestly. He sees us, and we've seen it. He's pushing heat pumps again. Brookfield makes heat pumps. Therefore, Carney profits. He's blocking oil, LNG, and gas in Alberta to the East Coast because he just bought a $9 billion pipeline in America. He won't allow us to dig coal. You just saw he owns coal mines in Australia, two in the States, probably more. He owns pipelines in Saudi and the Middle East. Carney only does what's best for Mark Carney. He doesn't do what's best for the people. And as a government official, we need people that will do what's best for the country and the people. That's not Mark Carney. That's never been Mark Carney. Mark Carney only cares about himself, and I guess Brookfield hid the company that made him rich. That's it. He destroyed the UK economy. I'm not going to go over his hit list. You can watch the previous videos. It's a mile long. It's too much to even remember without having a pad of paper and it all listed in front of you. It's really that long, So I'm just going to say it again. Mark Carney is evil. If you vote for the Liberals in this election, you are intentionally voting for evil. And that's unthinkable. That's absolutely unthinkable to me. Politics shouldn't even be an issue with this. Ideology, it shouldn't be an issue. If Polyev did all this crap, and he hasn't, but if he did it, I'd be saying the same about Polyev. It doesn't matter if it's right or left. This man is evil. And if you give him the power he wants, it's not going to work out good for Canada. It's not. He has no intention of helping Canada. He is going to drive us into the ground. Drug addicts, crime, homelessness, that's all going to keep skyrocketing, which it has. That's the amazing thing is you've already seen his record. He has been advising Justin Trudeau for the last 10 years, officially for 5, but he was in the scene for the first 5. So for Justin Trudeau's record over the last 10 years, that is Mark Carney's record. So you know what his policies are going to bring about. And if you don't want to look at that, go look at the UK. Look at what he did to the UK. Understand why their media is telling us to run away from him. I don't know what it's going to take for people to wake up. I really don't. And this division in Canada it's growing and it's going to split the country apart, and that's going to be an absolute crime. It really is. And it's avoidable if people just don't vote for evil. Anyway, that's my video for today. I wanted to put out the full-length video on this one because it's just too important. If you like this video, leave a like, a subscribe, and a share. If you dislike this video, leave a dislike. Always feel free to leave a comment. Don't worry, I don't swing my cane too strongly if I dislike your comment. And as always, pew, 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 and shit. And I hope you never get sick if this guy takes office. Bye.